So that's where Calgary's fits in. But is there enough out there that if you don't get Markstrom, that you would feel like there's a huge loss? Like, is this how big? I guess how big of a priority is Markstrom in your mind?
As more time goes by, actually surprisingly less. Like the more I kind of draw comparisons to like what Tampa did with Bishop and Vasilevsky, like I kind of draw in more and more comparisons. Like they went with the younger guy and it's worked out well for them. And with Demko's playoff performance, why not have faith in the kid?
Yeah, it's so tough. That's the big debate is how much can you rely on Demko going forwards, because he had 3 absolutely amazing games in the playoffs, but that's like, can he do that over the long haul over multiple seasons? And do you next year you're gonna want and need to have 2 solid goaltenders, because it's going to be a condensed schedule. It's going to be you're going to see a lot of back-to-backs and 3 and 4s and all that. So it all comes down to whether or not it's a priority to know what's going on with Markstrom, and it's a priority to get to, if they can sign him to a deal that gives them flexibility going forwards when they have to make a decision with between Demko and Markstrom.
I think giving the situation, it's actually kind of a good time, maybe a blessing in disguise of what the market is right now with how many goaltenders are available during or with free agency. And moving on from Markstrom, yeah, it's going to take a bit of a hit, but I don't think it's going to be as big of a hit as some Canucks fans are worried about. With Demko, yeah, there's gonna be a big workload for sure with this kind of jamming in all these games in a short period of time to try and get the NHL back to a normal off season and normal regular season. So for not this coming year, but for the next year. So yeah, I don't think it's as big as a priority as it was coming out of the playoffs. So yeah, there's so many goalies that could be a 1A or a 1B to Demko.
Yeah, it is interesting to kind of see. I think with the Flames too, Devin, the idea of like Tree Living. Maybe we'll just quickly transition this into the Flames part of this here. True Living said that Rittich played well early, Talbot played well late. He's open to bringing both back. What I'm taking away from it is True Living is not desperately looking to overpay for a goaltender, but if there is a top end one like a Markstrom or a Holtby, he'll make his run for it, but not be desperate over it. Like he's comfortable with a Rittich Talbot combination.
Yeah, it seemed to work during last year well enough to go back to it, because it wasn't the past 2 years. It hasn't been our goaltending that has let us down. It's been our forwards. It's been the skaters that have let us down. So you're not doing, if you're GM, you're not doing your job correctly if you aren't thinking about upgrading any part of your roster at any point. And if there's a better player out there that you can improve your team with, then you got to go for it. And Markstrom could be that player for the Flames. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things shake out, because it sounds like the trade market won't ramp up until the end of or after free agency. That's what I've been hearing, and so every team's really nervous about making that first move and making maybe overpaying for a certain player, and then finding out that there's a similar player that went for $3 million less. So it's going to be, hold on to your hats and just hang on for the ride and just watch what's going to happen, because it's going to be very interesting.
As Sean predicted yesterday. Oh yeah, Kevin was on the same note. As Sean predicted yesterday, I'll let Sean take over. It was your idea.
Well, yeah, it's just we're seeing a little bit of that today, honestly, with goalies starting to fall. With Leonard signed, Tristan Jarry signed. We saw Philadelphia lock up Brian Elliott as well. We're starting to see that. So, but we're still going to see a significant amount of goaltenders hit the UFA market. We got Henrik Lundqvist got bought out. You're going to see Braden Holtby hit the market. We're going to see Craig Anderson hit the market. And those are all really good options as a 1A, 1B for short term. Holtby, you could even make an argument for a little bit longer term because he is younger. But if you're looking for a short term tandem with your younger goaltender like the Canucks or even the Flames with potentially Rittich, you've got a lot of options out there to bring in someone to help relieve the load, because I'll hammer this until the next season starts, whenever that actually happens. Is the next season's going to be a very condensed season, so you're going to have to play two goalies a lot more than you would normally play two goalies. So it's there's a lot of goalies out there, and Cam Talbot is part of that group in terms of being a good tandem goaltender. So they've got someone who wants to stay in Calgary, because they have discussed it before, but I'm sure they're waiting to see who else is available come next Friday.
Yeah.
Now,
goalie. Oh, sorry.
Well, I was just going to ask you guys, what do you guys think about bringing Henrik Lundqvist in as a veteran Swede? Because it sounds like it's kind of similar to the Matt Sundin kind of thing. Bring over a veteran Swedish player to help kind of grease the wheels of the younger guys.
I don't think
you could even make a comparison of like Oland mentoring Hedman down in Tampa sort of thing. So yeah, I would be potentially okay with that.
I remember listening to Kevin Woodley talk about it, and him talking about how Lundqvist has been in the same organization with the same goalie coach for his whole career, and now he's going to have to go to a different team with a different goalie coach and a different system, and he's going to have to learn that. I think I think you take that shot with him. Honestly, I think you do, but there is some question on whether or not what level of Lundqvist are you getting when you bring him in? So, but yeah, I think it'd be a really good idea if you can't bring Marchand back. I think that's a goaltender you definitely kick the tires on and see his interest coming to Vancouver, who apparently can attract Swedish players.
So I'm going to be the contrarian. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't touch him. There's no disrespect to the Lundqvist, the player. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he's one of the best goalies to ever play in this game. But I also think that there's a potential for a danger of distraction on a really young team.
What distraction?
I think in terms of personality, there seems to be a Mark Messier aura about him that I don't think would fit the Canucks organization. I think, in a sense of like he's got a really big personality, and I don't know if he would necessarily be a fit here, as big of a fit here as people think. And I think he legitimately would want to play more than people. I don't think he's willing to just sit on the bench and be a backup. I don't think that would be his style. To me, I could see him more in a place like Carolina, which I know, Sean, you brought up on Twitter and other people did too. I think that that's a much better fit for him. I think that team, There's a uniqueness about him. I just think it's a better fit for him to be in a Carolina or an Eastern Conference team. Even Toronto, I would see a better fit. Lundqvist being a better fit than Vancouver. There's just something about the vibe I'm getting for Lundqvist, and I could totally be wrong, that I just don't see what the Canucks are building. I don't see Lundqvist being a fit for it.
As a short-term stopgap to tandem with Demko, I don't understand why you think that it's a bad idea. And I don't see this Mark Messier aura, that, as you put it, with Lundqvist. Yeah, he's got a bigger personality, but he's not really like he's I don't see that being an issue at all. They've got big personalities on that team. Like I think he's a lot like Petey in the fact that he likes to be stylish. He likes to show off his style, but he's not going to demand the room like Messier did. Like that, like I don't see it at all. Because I think the other thing is, Kevin, Lundqvist has not won a cup.
No,
right?
And that's
So,
the big question with him, of course, or not a question, but that would be my number one priority if I'm Lundqvist. But I also think that Lundqvist wants to lead a team to a cup, and I don't know if he does that in Vancouver. I think you would run with Demko and expect Lundqvist to be the backup.
Again, I feel like a more apt comparison would be like Miller going to be Gibson's backup in Anaheim. Like, to me, that makes a lot more sense. Where, like, yes, he has a big personality. Yes, he'll get a lot of attention as far as media. But I don't think it would be, like Sean's saying, it's not a Mark Messier sort of style where it's like hey, I'm the center of attention, the king of the room. Like, he would more so just want to come in and be a piece that helps bring the room together as opposed to drawing attention to himself.
You would hope so. You would hope that would be the mindset of where he is at in his career, being able to help Demko and help the young Swedish players move forward and become more of a professional than they currently are. And that's the only reason why I brought it up, is so that it's not taking away from Demko, but more as a stepping stone, as a crutch, to kind of help a young team move forward. And I understand Kevin's worry there, because there is that potential. We don't know this guy. He's King Hank, right? King Henrik. So it doesn't come with that kind of nickname. Doesn't come with just by itself. So there's that worry, but I think overall, I think the positives would definitely outweigh the negatives of having him on your team.
But then again, you got to ask about that contract though too, right? So with this goaltender market the way that it is, what are you willing to pay him, and is that money being, especially the cap issues that the Canucks have? And especially the priority being, you need to improve this defense. What are you going to spend on that could hurt bringing in some top level D? So like could you bring in I'm not saying Thomas Greiss is Henrik Lundqvist in any way, shape, or form, but if Thomas Greiss costs a lot cheaper than Henrik Lundqvist, and you can bring in a free agent defenseman that can improve that back end, or you can make that trade. We'll get into that if you're down with OEL. Yeah, you know me in a moment. But that to me is the other question. And I don't think Lundqvist is going to come cheap. I really don't. I don't think he's going to be one of those guys that is going to say, yeah, I'll play for $1 million. Yeah, I'll just sit on a bench and look at the Canada Place West Coast sunshine and everything will be A-okay. That does not strike me as a Lundqvist style at all. I think he wants to be the number one guy.
He's going to push for the number one no matter where he goes. Yeah, totally. That's what you want. You don't want, and especially next year. I'm going to hammer this again because apparently I need to. You're going to need two goaltenders next year.
And I'm not saying you don't need two goaltenders.
You're not going to have a starter and a normal starter backup setup.
But
for 90% of teams. And the smart teams aren't going to have that. You're going to have a 1A, 1B situation where they're going to split the games 50 30 40, like maybe even like a 50-50 split, 40 41 41, like around that. So it's not like he's going to sit and only play 15 20 games if he comes to Vancouver. He's going to play 30 plus games next year.
But
so I don't understand I will not listen and come back at you to say that he's not going to get the starts, and he's going to be sitting there being the backup. He's not. The Canucks are going to want to have two solid goaltenders next year. They saw why they needed it.
But that's not what I'm saying, though. You could still get two solid goaltenders, and I think pay less than what I think Lundqvist will want. I do not think
that's an issue. But that's a completely different issue than what you've been saying, though, Kevin.
But I already said that. I brought that up as a salary, as an option for Lundqvist. I did say that. Did I not say that? I did say. But
to Kevin's defense, Sean, what he was talking about before was the salary cap that he's going to come in at, or what he's going to be demanding. He's already made over 100.
Demand $6 million or $5 million, though. Hey, I think it's going to be $3 million. And I think that's more than fair.
Oh, he's not gonna. You think Henrik Lundqvist is going to want to play for $3 million?
He's 38, Kev.
He's not gonna play. He's not.
This should be a sub-poll question. He doesn't have the stats to back up that's after the past couple of years, and he's going to want to go to a team that he can help put over the edge and become a go to the cup again.
It really depends on his
different argument.
It really depends on his mindset. If he's wanting to kind of quote unquote reinvent himself as a mentor to younger players, then yes, someone will want him on their team. But if he's going to be egotistical and demand more money than he actually should be getting, he's made over $100,000 in his career. $100,000. You think
$100 million? You mean?
Sorry, $100 million. Yes, sorry. Thank you. Oh God! Yes, $100 million.
$100,000.
Yeah. He's made over $100 million. So I don't. If he can step aside from his ego and become more of a mentor, then there will be a place for him somewhere. For I would say probably $3 to $4 million, maybe. He won't be demanding $5. He'll be demanding $5, but then no team's going to bite on that, especially with the goalie market.
Yeah, that's what the question for me is.
And I think having that question is fine, but I still don't understand this idea that he's an egotistical goalie.
What makes you think otherwise?
Pardon?
What makes you think otherwise?
Just the way he carries himself. Like he seems like he's a goalie, and he's going to have a little bit of that because you need that. But I don't see him being an egotistical. I'm going to come in, take things over, and just ruin things. Like, no, he's going to want to go to a team that gives him the best chance to win a cup. If he feels that's Vancouver, then he's going to have to play ball and be a 1B or a 1A and not play 60 plus games. He's going to probably, like I say, he's probably going to play between 30 and 50 games. And then if he feels like that's Carolina, he's going the same thing. Look at how Carolina played their goalies this year. It's going to be the same thing. He's not going to be the de facto number one goalie and play 60 plus games, because Carolina plays a tandem a lot more than most teams too. So both those options are going to he's going to have to settle for not being the de facto number one.
He's not going to be the number one goalie that people are going to be not number one in the system, but he's not going to be the first goalie that people are going to be wanting. There's way too many goalies out there. So, and with the cap being what it is and what owners want to pay, it's just not realistic that he's going to be number one. He might actually have to settle for a team if he wants to play for again next year and the year after. And that's just the reality of things.
Yeah, because of the buyout, I legitimately think he could be a quote-unquote loser in this game of goalie musical chairs.
Yep.
Or he could wait his options. He could wait. It's not unrealistic that he's he's the Seattle Kraken goalie next year. That's not an unrealistic thing that you.
He's not going to set out a season though, Kev.
He might go over to Sweden and play overseas.
Yeah, he can
for a
play in
season and
Europe.
then come back.
He doesn't need to play
For sure.
in Europe.
And he's also 38. We're not talking about a 34, 35-year-old goalie. We're talking about a 38-year-old goalie. I don't think he sits out. I don't think he goes to Sweden. If he wants to play 2 more years and maybe be the Seattle Kraken goalie, he has to play this year. He has to play this year. Otherwise, why would they bring in a goalie like him? And when he hasn't played in the NHL for a season, and he's 39, pushing 40,
Brand.
when Seattle starts.
Brand, and that's the thing that I think that where we're differing is Henrik Lundqvist has a brand. He's about fashion. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or a good thing, whatever, but that is something that you are bringing in, and
I don't know why that's a bad thing at all.
I'm not.
I don't think he's saying it's a bad thing. I don't think he's saying it's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but that's like if you're Henrik Lundqvist, that is something that you have to consider. You're considering your future outside of hockey going forward because you're 38. You have created this brand. You have a huge future ahead of you, doing whatever the hell you want to do. If you're Henrik Lundqvist,
Color commentating. Let's be honest here. With a face like that.
oh God, BX said Lundqvist on Hockey Night in Canada. Just forget hockey. We're just gonna sit and watch the intermission. Right? No,
Either
but
way,
like those are things like his. I'm not saying that no hockey player doesn't think about his future, but he has a very unique future in front of him that I think will play into this in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And
I think he wants to end his career on a high and go out as a Stanley Cup champion if he can. So I think he's going to look at teams that have the chance, depending on what else they do in this offseason.
I guess my point is, if I'm Vancouver and I'm Calgary, he's not my first option. As in terms of
and you're allowed to have that opinion.
If Markstrom's, if the Canucks let Markstrom walk, who's your first option?
If I'm Vancouver, I look either at a Talbot, a Grice, someone that you won't have to pay, that will be a reasonable contract that can help me improve my blue line.
And I think the biggest thing right now between I think you and I, Kev, is your expectation that Lundqvist is going to ask for a lot more money.
Yeah, that's I think where our difference is probably. But
yeah.
And I think, I look at a Talbot and I think he's a good guy in the room. I'm not saying Lundqvist is not a good guy in the room, but I think Talbot's a good fit for that. He's used to it. Grice, sort of the same thing. Although I think Talbot's I may think Talbot's a bit better than Grice. Even a lower option, not top of my list, but I wouldn't be surprised if they look at a Jimmy Howard. Someone who's played a split role already, I think would be a okay with me.